Hello everyone, and this is Phoenix here, and today we're taking a look at yet another underrated OST list, but this time it's going to be on the PlayStation 2. And this one was really tough for me to do because, as you know, the system has like a shit ton of games on it. And a lot of my all-time favorite games happen to have OSTs that I do think are underrated as they are. You know the ones I'm talking about, you know, stuff like Shadow Hearts, Artanelico, Sugunai, Atonement, and like all like the Yu-Gi-Oh games, all that shit. As much as I love all those games, and I would love to talk even more about them, I'm gonna leave them off the list because, you know, I already talk about like those games to death on like so many other videos. So today instead I'm talking about other PS2 games that I like barely talk about, or if I have talked about them, it was only like one time only. So yeah, that will pretty much cover it for this one. So yeah, gonna be talking about some video game music on PS2 that I consider to be very underrated. So let's get right to it. So the first one we have here is Tokyo Extreme Racer 3. So here's a racing game on PS2 that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough compared to like the other usual stuff like Gran Turismo, Burnout, Need for Speed, all of that. But unlike those games, this one does not have any licensed music in it, and instead has a really great original soundtrack that has a lot of variety, such as hard rock, some trance, some heavy metal, and there's like a couple other like random other genres too. But I'll go out and say that the hard rock and heavy metal stuff are easily my favorite, but all the other genres are still really good and high quality stuff too. And the next one we got here is one I did mention in my Games I Wish Got Fan Translated once, and that happens to be Metal Wolf Rev. Yeah, this game is on both Dreamcast and PS2s, but I figured I might as well include it in here because, well, who the hell else is talking about this damn game? And besides, trying to look up information on this game is pretty hard to do, especially the fact that it's called Metal Wolf, and of course, whenever you type that in on Google, you always seem to get information about Metal Wolf Chaos. Even if you put PS2, you'll still get results for that, so that just tells you how buried this game is. But yeah, it's a visual novel that has a nice art style that I do like, and the music for this game is surprisingly really good, and I really like it. It's very catchy, and it does have some like really cool sounding tracks, and it does have some pretty good variety as well. And next up we have is Eternal Poison. Now this is an RPG that I actually remember seeing back in the day, and I always thought it looked cool, and then I never picked it up, and it kind of is a shame it went like that, but oh well, I can always emulate it anytime I want to. But after hearing the OST for this game, I definitely do want to play it, because the OST for this game is actually really fucking awesome. It's mostly filled with piano and violin pieces, which do sound really good and do fit the game's style, but it also does have some other good variety too, which I also do really enjoy. And next up we have is a game that I'm gonna butcher the fuck out of the name, like I always do, and that happens to be Ziloil Infinite. Yeah, this is another one that I talked about once in a Games I Wish Got Fan Translated, and I will make an update and say that, yeah, there actually is one in the works for the PS2 version, and I think they have a beta patch out, but it's not entirely finished yet, so that's really fucking cool. But yeah, I will say that this is an RPG that has many different versions, like there's one on PS1, PS2, and PSP. And the PS1 version has a very different sound to it, where the PS2 and the PSP almost sound very identical to me, but yeah, this version uses a lot of like string and like many different like medieval sounding instruments, which really fits the game really well. That's the best way I can describe this OST. It sounds very medieval, very epic, very like orchestrated and all this type of like movie trailer type of thing, which I really like. So yeah, that's basically the best way I can sum up this OST. So now, before we get to the number one spot, I would do an honorable mention, but well, I guess I kinda already did at the start by mentioning those 4 games, but I mean, if I even were to do an honorable mention, like, I'd be here forever just listing like over like 100 games, and even that wouldn't even be enough. So, anyways, let's get right to it and get to the number one spot, and that happens to be... Okay, I don't know what just happened there, but alright, let's get to the real number one spot, and that happens to be... Sword of Earthia. So this is a hack and slash game from Konami that came out in Europe and Japan, but we didn't get it in North America. And I did play it for a little bit, and yeah, it's a thing. But if there is one thing that this game did like an amazing job with, would have to be the game's music. Because the music in this game is just holy shit. Like, there's just so much like guitar shredding, lots of like really good amped up music that gets you hyped. It really does remind me of something that you would hear in games like The Bouncer or like the Grandia series. It very much sounds very similar to that. So if you love the music in those games, you'll definitely love it here. And that's all the PS2 games I'm going to talk about for this video, and trust me, I could go on like hours and hours talking about this, but, well, you know, I don't think anyone would be willing to sit through that. So, anyways, what are some PS2 games that you think have some music that are, you know, very underrated and a lot of people don't talk about them very much? So, with that said, thanks for watching, commenting, and have yourselves a great day.